Yeah. So how you be on this glorious day?
Man, I'll be glorious. I'll be absolutely glorious, man. You know, Allah is God, and we know the black man is Allah. And so every day I'm able to wake up and try to be an effective helper in the cause of Allah, man. It's a great day for me. It's a glorious day for me.
True indeed. We're gonna get this started soon. We're still getting some last touches, finishing touches in here as far as the cameras for the main, because we shoot with like 3 different cameras.
Okay. Our sister Ra, so she gonna join us tonight? Digga?
Absolutely, yes.
That's what's up.
She's just finishing getting her makeup done.
Oh yeah.
You know how the sisters do.
Getting it right. I ain't mad at it.
Yeah, she'll be joining us in just a moment. She's here. And yeah, we're gonna get into it.
Yeah. That's what's up.
Nothing new was said, just to let you know. Same information he's been sharing the whole time. You probably saw the first segment.
I did.
The next one will be out tomorrow morning. But I might could get you can see that tonight. But really it doesn't, it's the same thing. Yeah. Just like you said, you've been ready, he been ready.
Yeah, so God willing, Allah willing, we make a few points tonight, and then next week he and I have a fruitful discussion, a fruitful show and prove.
Next week portion, because he said he made some attempts to contact you directly, which he said he was unsuccessful, and he took that as you not wanting to participate.
Wait a minute. Wait, hold on. Wait a minute. He said he's reached out to me, like, recently? Since 2014? No,
like
sir.
the other day.
No, sir.
He said on your Facebook.
But Brother Paul, Mr. Paul Guthrie has my personal phone number. We've engaged personally on several occasions. My phone number hasn't changed in 23 years. The same phone number that he has. That if he wanted to get in touch with me, he would have called me. He knows that our relationship isn't restricted to DMing anymore. We have had personal discussions, some of which I want to bring to the audience's attention. So no, Mr. Paul Guthrie knows exactly how to easily access me. I've gotten nothing from him.
I'll he sent the statement, and I'll read that or whatever, what his statement, and you can reply to that or whatever. But he wants to hear the word debate, and he wants you to publicly acknowledge it, and all of that thing, and in order for it to happen.
Yeah, which means he don't want it to happen. Which means he don't want it to happen. Look, just be real clear. We're both grown men here. Mr. Paul Guthrie can hear that word debate as often as he like. He just say the word. As much as he says the word, he can hear the word. But I'm not going to allow him to language police me. Where they do that at? Right? He called it, he described it how he wants to describe it. Just meet me after school at 3 o'clock. Call it what you want. Let's just meet after school at 3 o'clock. What? Stop playing.
Well, all of this was communicated to the brother, and I try to make him, because for me, I feel like if you have information, then that should be the most important thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to get people caught up in semantics of words and what this means and that means. I thought show and prove was a good middle ground, but it wasn't. So,
which says that he's looking for a legal maneuver out of this, which he has been wiggling out of it since 2014. This was an opportunity. I'm ready. He should be ready. Just come on, let's do this. But if you're looking for a legal technicality to squeeze out of it. That's what it sounds like. You want to hinge whether you will come before the people with me and defend your position. You want to hinge that on whether I say words that you want to hear. I promise you, few words that I say is he gonna want to hear. So why start now?
Rod Digga said, shots fired, shots fired. Shots fired. She getting ready. She gonna be on here in a minute. So how we usually do this, you know, it's about 3 20-minute segments, which all adds up to an hour. We put them out Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, with the whole entire episode out on Sunday. So yeah, we're gonna just do 20-minute segments. Initially, you know, before we get started, me and Rod Digga, you know, we go through like the math of the day. You know, we give them the math. So we're just gonna do that for those days real quick on these cameras that's over here that you can't see, and then we're gonna get into the show. You know, I'd like to touch on just who you are and your background a little bit, because I think that's quite interesting. You know, where you come from, and you know that the fact that you are Dr. Wesley Muhammad, like, you know. Yeah, I'd like to get into some of that before we delve into
this
topic.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
I'd like to get into who you are, and then we're gonna get, you know.
Yes, sir. That's fine. As I tell everybody, I don't enjoy spending too much time on me on normal occasions. On this occasion, I'm anxious to get right to the cause of the evening. So I'm happy. Well, no, I'm never happy talking about me, I'll be honest. But I'm happy to be compliant with the requests of my host. But I'm going to be...
Well, you know, as me being Lord Jamar and one of the Nation of Gods and Herbs.
Yes, sir.
You know, and I know you come from True Islam.
True Islam. I'm still True Islam. I ain't never not True Islam.
Well, okay, well, I feel that's very interesting. And I think that's a side of you that people need to hear about.
I'm with that.
And understand that angle, because I think it's quite specific, you know, as far as someone in the NOI, and especially for you to be able to rise so high within it, NOI, coming from that background.
Yes,
so
sir.
I'd like to touch on that.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely with it.
Hey, Lord Jamar. We got Sam Extraordinary House in the place. We got the record Extraordinary House. And so this week, we are continuing where we left off, as we have the World Cup coming here, and you know, made some out WB4 religions and, you know, Nation Islam. And so this week we have the pleasure and honor of having a distinguished brother from the Nation Islam. Is a representative of the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. Today we have Dr. Wesley Muhammad in the house.
Peace to the gods.
So we got him here on Shindig right now. He is coming to us live from Mosque, which you have, yes?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
It's great to have you.
It's great to be here. It's my honor. I'm sorry?
How are you, brother?
Man, I'm glorious. I'm good. I'm alive. I'm healthy, man. I'm at the headquarters of the Nation of Islam, the capital of the black world, where black God power moves are made like they're not made any other place on the planet. So I'm great.
Well, listen, before we continue and really get into the matter at hand, I'd like you give the people a brief synopsis of you know. Who is Dr.? How did you become a doctor? How did you come into the knowledge of yourself? How did you end up rising to the nation of Islam?
Yes, sir. Well, as an atheist, a bitter atheist at one point of my life, is when I encountered the truth of God. In fact, I was looking for a brother of mine, a FOI, in a cafeteria at Morehouse, and I found him, but he happened to be engaged in a debate with a brother that I did not know, and they were debating over who is God. And it just so happens that the brother that my FOI friend was engaged in a little debate with was a 5%er. Peace to the God, Wakil Allah. And as they are discussing who God is, for the first time I heard the most powerful truth ever spoken to me: the black man is God. And when I heard that from that brother in that cafeteria, Wakil Allah, when I heard that, that had the effect on me, as did the words, the white man is the devil, have on Malcolm X. And so from there, then the God taught me, gave me knowledge of self. I was birthed into the 5% nation of Islam. Why is God Allah true Islam? And be real clear, this is 28 years later. From that day, I acquired knowledge of self. I've never not been in the 5% nation of Islam, who are the 5% in this poor part of the planet Earth. So I want to be real clear. My journey from there to now, it took me in many circles, it elevated me to many levels, but it never took me out of the 5%. True Islam is what I was then, and I'm striving to this very day to maintain as true Islam. I joined it was 1992. I'm sorry. I came into knowledge in 1990 in Atlanta, Georgia. I was a bitter atheist at the time, had rejected the whole notion of God and religion, but I was friends with the Muslims because I loved the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan even then. And one day I was looking for a Muslim friend of mine. He was in the Morehouse cafeteria. When I found him, I caught him engaged in a little debate with some brother I didn't know. They were debating who is God, the reality of God. And that brother the brother that my Muslim friend was debating happened to have been a 5%er. Wakil Allah, peace to the God, Wakil. And it was during the course of that discussion that I heard for the first time the words that not only changed my life, but has dictated the trajectory of my life from that day to this day. The words, the black man is God. And when I heard those words from that 5% on that day in 1990, they resonated with me the same way the words, the white man is the devil, resonated with Malcolm X. So from there, I started getting knowledge of self. I acquired my 120 the same year. True Islam is Wise God Allah was the name my enlightener gave me. True Islam Allah is the name I gave myself after I matured in my self-knowledge. So I've been true Islam from that day to this day. It was in May of 1992. I did not decide to leave the 5% nation. Where am I going? I got the knowledge of God. So I'm either going to lose the knowledge of God and become 85 again, or I'm going to conceal what I know and become a 10%. Neither of those were an option. So I've been a 5%. What I decided in 1992, Black Gods, was to join the military training of men who belong to Islam in North America. It was in May 1992, I got registered in the mosque to help the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan in a way and on the level I had not been able to do at the time. That was May 1992. And again, I emphasize
And this is the fruit of Islam, correct?
the fruit of Islam, that is correct. The military training of men who belong to Islam in North America. I wanted to take my manifestation of Islam. I want to take my wisdom to that next level in my personal life. I wanted the discipline. I wanted to be a soldier in the cause of Allah, not just one in the cipher with knowledge of self. I wanted to put myself in the regiment of Allah. I wanted to submit myself to the military training of men, and it was going through submitting myself to the military protocol that I learned the science of Black God protocol. So joining the military training of men didn't take me back in my Islam. It propelled me forward in my Black God Islam.
Okay. What were you studying?
What was I studying in Morehouse? First, pre-law, until that fateful day when I heard that the black man is God, and that consumed my life. Since then, I had to change over because I'm studying religion all day, every day. Now, I'm not doing any of my other homework. So I said, let me go ahead before I flunk out. Let me go ahead and switch over to religious studies, since I'm spending all of my time studying academically religion, studying the Black God. So this is how I became, I believe, family, one of the very few people on the earth whose academic expertise is the Black God. So as a historian of religion, my particular area of expertise is the Black God as a historical, theological tradition around the world. And that's because once I heard the black man is God, the study of that consumed my life from that day to this.
And so you have a doctorate in theological studies?
I have a doctorate in Islamic studies. I have a bachelor's degree in religious studies from Morehouse College. I have a master's degree in Islamic studies from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and I have a doctorate, a PhD in Islamic studies from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. But more than that, I'm acquiring a Black God protocol degree in the Nation of Islam under the instructorship of the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. That's my most valuable degree because, dear Lords, if I can say this, I spent my life studying, for the last 28 years of my life, I've been consumed studying the reality of the Black God academically. So I've gone through all of the traditions in the world, and all of my literature, my books are on the Black God around the world. But it was an academic exercise, stimulating, important, but it was an academic, intellectual exercise. It is my work in the Nation of Islam as an FOI. It is my work as a student of the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan that is preparing, acquainting me with the reality of being a Black God. Because see, for me, Lord, I don't do religion just to do religion. I'm still a recovering atheist. I'm in this thing to be, don't tell me that the black man is God and then disallow me from being able to be that. Like, oh, word, the black man is God. I want to be that right there. If you're not going, if there's no path for me to actually be God, then it would have been better that I never knew that my nature is God. So the greatest degree, I got the best of the white man's degree from the best of his institutions in America. But the greatest degree that I'm in the process of acquiring right now is the accept your own and be yourself degree, the be the black God degree. And it's the Honorable, my teacher, is as a consequence of sitting at the foot of the master teacher, the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan.
Let's talk about that real quick. You know, I have, went from the 5% and might have joined maybe Orthodox, whatever the case may be. But, I've never been a brother that made and then go so high, or they be, explaining how you got to the point where you were able to at the peak of the honorable.
Well, let me share a story because it speaks to the man, the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan, and I think this is a great platform to have that discussion, Lord Jamar, with the audience of the Gods and Earths in particular. That's a great question, and it's a perfect platform to answer it. So I was in academia. I got my doctorate degree. I wrote my dissertation. I want to say a little bit about it. This is my doctoral dissertation. I wrote it on, would you say? Oh, yeah. It's thick, 8 years. Yeah, it's thick and heavy. I brought it for a reason for Mr. Paul Guthrie, but we'll get to that later.
Okay.
But so I got my degree. I'm working in academia. I'm writing scholarship on the teachers. Everything I write professionally, academically, was on the truth of God as taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as revealed to him by our Savior, Master Farrakhan Muhammad. So I'm in the academy teaching this, but the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan called me one day and told me, just quite frankly, that the academy, the college university system, was imprisoning me, imprisoning my scholarship, because I'm writing and vindicating the truth of God, but I'm doing so within the restrictions that the university system imposed on me. And it did impose restrictions on me. So he literally said he wanted to bring me out of the prison of academia, bring me to Chicago to free me so I can research and do scholarship on the black God freely. That's that man, the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. So he brought me here to Chicago to study with no restrictions the truth of the black God. He's provided for me the resources allowing me to commit, as I was anyway, but now with the capability and the facility to commit the totality of my day and life to the study of the black God. So I don't do this part-time. This ain't a hobby. I don't moonlight in the study of the black God. That is what I do from eye open to eye closed, and even in between those two. And it's because the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan saw what I was doing, was moved by it, and wanted to free me so I can do it on the level that I'm doing it right now.
Well, listen, this knowledge that was by Farrakhan, it shaped and molded us. And at the end of the day, some great things. My first, I shared this last, shared with you. My first exposure type of knowledge was the nation through that's the black man, to live, he has a ride, screen with it. I read, or I was actually in the 5%. There was a brother. He had just came home. His name is Bob. He was a 5%. Where we lived, there wasn't really a lot of 5%ers around. So he was kind of with the Nation Islam, the Muslims at that time. Strong brother. You know what I mean? Wide looking for the brother. Had that, that Farrakhan type of hair. You know what I'm talking about, that waves to the side. He just used to call us certain brothers out. With our coach, hey, a black man is dumb. And just like when that, the same way you heard that, it just was like, oh, you say, like, something in me over this in a way. And yeah, I was intrigued. But I might have been like 13 at the time that I came into this. And this came across. I was still, one kid and into, not ready to put on a tie and go out there, self-final call, and things of that nature. But I wanted to know. And so that's where 5% I was able to still,
in the world, there's a big greater forward.
So you're royal.
Just want that level of discipline at that age. But I didn't. And so, just take that for it. But we said around the brothers that was in the Nation of Islam. We always had great rapport with each other. And we always felt those brothers. It's just been a symbiotic.
Praise belongs to Allah.
So listen, we get into pieces of your history. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and we're going to dive into and as far Paul Guthrie and things he has to say.
Sounds good.
All right. So we'll be back after Wesley Muhammad. Right here. Hey, welcome back to the Yanadameen Godcast. I'm Lord Jamar.
I'm Digga.
We got fact checker Rage in the house. Audio technician extraordinaire Alex. Got my man Harold over here on the cameras. And we are back with our distinguished guest for part 2. We have Dr. Wesley Muhammad in the house, everybody. Dr. Wesley Muhammad from the Nation of Islam. As-Salaam Alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum salam, Lord.
So in the last episode, we were talking a little bit about your history, where you come from, how you came up in the Nation of Gods and Earths and made your way up through the ranks of the Nation of Islam. So really, while you're here, last episode, we had a brother on the show by the name of Paul Guthrie, who has an interesting documentary series online called Get On Board the Wheel, where he brings up some things that you and I were taught in our lessons that we learned, especially in the 5% Nation. Certain things that we learned about Master Farrakhan Muhammad and certain things that Elijah Muhammad taught us. There were some things that were said that were contrary to that. And he offers some compelling arguments. And we're here to see what you have to say about that, brother. I'm sure you're well aware, of what he said in the past, as far as Master Farrakhan not coming from the holy city of Mecca and quite possibly coming from India, as well as he also offers the suggestion that Farad was not teaching Islam, but indeed he was teaching Buddhism.
Yes.
So those are his two main points, and those are the 2 points that I would like you to address here today, Brother Wesley.
Yes, sir. I am quite...
True Islam, I should call it.
True Islam, yes, sir. All day, every day. I am very familiar with Brother Paul Guthrie. We have had a number of personal exchanges. We spoke on a number of occasions several years ago in an attempt to negotiate terms for a sit-down, a public discussion of his claims. I invited him, and the public exchange that we had regarding our private exchange is on my Facebook page. I even printed it in our book, Faking Jacks, Exposing Paul Guthrie. So we know each other on a personal phone call level, multiple personal phone call level. So yes, I'm familiar with what he teaches publicly. I'm familiar with the nuance that he acknowledges privately but refuses to acknowledge publicly. And God willing, we want to get to that as soon as possible.
Okay, well, let's get into it. I like to get into the mathematics of it. And,
now, let me ask you, did you say that there was a statement from Mr. Paul Guthrie that you were going
actually, he did send a statement.
Okay, because I would like to hear it, and then I would like to make a statement.
Okay, well, let me read the statement that I just received from Paul Guthrie in regards to you two having a debate. Because I had originally, for the viewers at home, I had originally, when Paul was on, I was under the impression that he would come on that last week, then you would come on this week, and then the following week we would have a debate. Now, somewhere, within the negotiations of this, we understand that, you deal with a certain hierarchy as far as, you're within an organization, within the Nation of Islam, and you can't automatically always do things, I guess, autonomously, however you would like to do it.
That is correct. That's a fact.
So, basically, the brother would like you to publicly acknowledge the word debate in order to have any kind of dialogue or discussion. You say discussion, dialogue, he says debate, I say show and prove. At the end of the day, I feel the information is what's most important here. I really don't want to get caught up in semantics of terms and language policing, as you said earlier. But this is where we're at right now. Let me just read his statement. Lord Jamar, peace and thank you for your recent invitation to speak on the Yanadameen Godcast. Although a number of obstacles and interruptions arose as a result of my appearance, we all did our best to directly address and overcome those. Thanks also to the one and only Digga and your entire staff for their coolness. On Thursday, the day after our Godcast, I learned the debate with Dr. Wesley Muhammad is now canceled. My attempts to inquire about the status of the debate through direct contact with Dr. Muhammad all went unanswered. In the end, what matters most is you did your part, I did my part, and I look forward to our future talks on the world-famous Yanadameen Godcast. Peace to the gods, peace to the earth, and peace to the 85%, Paul Guthrie. That's his statement.
Okay. So I'm going to.
Would you like to reply?
I would like to reply with a statement and then a direct comment.
Okay.
My statement is, it is our position that Mr. Paul Guthrie's video series, Get on the Wheel, in which he seeks to convince us that Master Farrakhan Muhammad was not an Arabian Muslim, but instead was an Indian Buddhist, is not to be taken seriously at all. While there are some redeeming qualities of Mr. Guthrie's presentation, his main claims are based on a lack of knowledge of Islam as an historical tradition, a shallow understanding of Buddhism, and a demonstrable misrepresentation of the supreme wisdom of the Nation of Islam. Mr. Guthrie's scholarly methods are at times so amateurish and illogical that he seems at times to be willfully deceptive, knowing that non-nuanced thinkers and observers won't catch it. The net effect of this, Mr. Paul Guthrie is totally disqualified to speak on the subjects he presumes to be an authority of. In these presentations, Mr. Guthrie sounds very good and persuasive on a casual listening. However, when his words, arguments, methods, and evidences are actually scrutinized by critical viewers, Mr. Guthrie's constructions prove to be nothing more than an impressive house of cards to be blown away by the winds of critical engagement. And because he knows that, this is why Mr. Guthrie is trying to slide through whatever opening he can to squirm out of this engagement with me. As we stated at the beginning, I don't know what outreach Mr. Paul Guthrie is talking about. He has my phone number because it's been the same for over 23 years now, and when he wanted to get in touch with me in the past, he called my phone. I know how to call him. So he didn't call my phone. He made no attempt to reach out to me directly. If he's DMing me,
he hit you on your Facebook.
No, but you don't DM me. You know how to. If you really wanted to get at me, Mr. Guthrie,
I don't think it was a DM. I think it was on the comment.
If he wanted to get with me, he knows how to get with me on a personal level. We've had multiple conversations on the telephone trying to negotiate a sit down to critically engage the ideas he has been floating around. But this is an attempt, in my opinion, to wiggle out of what I have been trying to negotiate with him, the proper sit down so we can properly vet the claims he's feeding the people of America and indeed the world.
Well, let's get into it, because I don't want to get into any type of, I want to attack the information. I don't want to get on the person. See what I'm saying? If we're going to let's go after the information and
let's go after
whether he's qualified and all of that. It's like
I'm going to prove that.
I was always taught those who are qualify themselves.
And I'm going to prove the misqualification. I'm going to prove that he misqualified himself.
Okay, well, for me, coming from 5% Nation, we deal with the mathematics. So to me, it's some of the mathematical equations that are very intriguing to me, and that's where I would really like to focus at. Why do we run Yaqub and his maid devil from the root of civilization over the hot Arabian desert to the caves of West Asia? Okay? That whole scenario, and we know the science of general, I was always taught General Monk, but some say Monk. Where we speak on the 2,200 miles, we make them walk every step of the way. Let's talk about those numbers right there. Mm-hmm. Because according to Paul Guthrie, it doesn't add up. those numbers don't add up if we take it from the holy city of Mecca, nor do the numbers of, we couldn't swim 9,000 miles. Like, can we talk about the mathematics of that?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So first, to contextualize, because we're getting into the discussion now, so let's be real clear. To contextualize the point that we're going to start with, there are four main claims that Mr. Guthrie makes, which in the mathematical discussion that we're about to enter into emerges out of these particular claims. So the audience will be clear on what the claims are. Four main claims. One, Master Farrakhan Muhammad came from India and not Mecca. I'm actually going to start there. Claim number two, Master Farrakhan Muhammad taught Buddhism. He did not teach Islam. Claim number three, the supreme wisdom teachings of Master Farrakhan Muhammad are alien and incompatible with Islam, but totally compatible with Buddhism. And claim number four, which the point you want to start at is most relevant to, claim number four, the root of civilization, according to Master Farrakhan Muhammad, is in the Indus Valley area of ancient Harappa or Mohenjo-Daro, and not in the area now called Mecca, Arabia. Those are his four claims. The latter claim of where the root of civilization is the root of civilization as mentioned in these lessons. Is the root of civilization in Mecca, Arabia, or is the root of civilization, according to the lessons, in India, the Indus Valley civilization? One of the chief evidence that Mr. Guthrie presents to establish and be real clear, his claim isn't simply that the root of civilization is in India and not Mecca. His specific claim is that Master Farrakhan Muhammad in these lessons placed or identified the root of civilization with India and not Mecca. That's a very important nuance.
By using those numbers.
By using, and his chief evidence is the teaching in the lessons that when we rounded up Yaqub's made devil in Arabia, or in the root of civilization, and we marched them out of the root of civilization into the caves of West Asia, as we now call it, Europe. That we made them walk
1,100 miles, there was an oasis.
Right, made them walk 2,200 miles every step of the way. So he hinges his argument on what he claims is a mathematical incongruity. He claims that if the route from the root of civilization to the caves and hillsides of Mecca, or caves and hillsides of Europe, are 2,200 miles, then the starting point could not have been Mecca, because that's not 2,200 miles. He says the 2,200 miles actually identifies the starting point with the area now previously identified as Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, the Indus Valley area, because he claims that the math fits there. Will you please, he is mathematically wrong. Will you, dear brother Troy, bring up for us map number 1? Yeah. Now, so what we have
and
here.
You know what you can do real quick, brother? You can send me this stuff afterwards, and I can edit this into my program.
That's exactly what we're gonna do. So it'll be uploaded. What I have here is Google Maps, because in the initial get aboard the wheel videos that Mr. Guthrie released several years ago. He likes Google Maps. So let's fact check Mr. Guthrie. What we have here is a Google map for the distance between Punjab, Pakistan, and the Caucasus Mountains. I pray that at least the live stream audience can see this clearly, and your audience will have it clearly because I will send it to you. So here we have Google Maps of Punjab, Pakistan, the distance from Punjab, Pakistan to the Caucasus Mountains. Why Punjab, Pakistan? What is today Punjab, Pakistan is where Harappa sat. The Indus Valley civilization composed of two cities, Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro. Today, the area where Harappa was is now Punjab, Pakistan. Today, where Mohenjo-Daro was is now Sindh, Pakistan. And today, where Mecca was is in the Arabia of today, but we're going to talk about that. So this first Google Maps is the distance between ancient Harappa, Punjab, Pakistan, to the Caucasus Mountain. And we learn from Google Maps that it is exactly 4,041 kilometers from Punjab or Harappa to the Caucasus Mountains. The conversion.
You know we from America and we don't know nothing about that metric system.
I'm going to walk us through it because his success is by sticking and moving.
Remember when they tried to teach us the metric system, brother, when we was younger?
Dropping something and then walking away. So I'm going to walk us meticulously through the mathematics and prove the hoax of Mr. Paul Guthrie's claims. So yes, so follow your brother. The distance given for Harappa, India, to the Caucasus Mountains, 4,041 kilometers, which when translated into miles is exactly 2,511.2 miles. Now, if we
off by 300 and some change.
If we round that number, 2,511.2, if we round it, we have to round it down to 2,500, high school mathematics. To your point, there is a difference there of 331 miles. The difference between the 2,200 miles that we are looking for and the distance between Harappa and the Caucasus Mountains, the difference is 331 miles. Now, map number 2, please. Map number 2 is the Google map for the distance from Sindh, Pakistan to the Caucasus Mountain. Sindh, Pakistan is what was Mohenjo-Daro. Now, the distance between ancient Mohenjo-Daro to the Caucasus Mountains is 2,511 miles. I switched it. Punjab is 2,511. I had the two maps. The first one, Punjab, Harappa, 2,511 miles between the two locations, a difference of 311.2 miles. The second map, Sindh, Pakistan, where Mohenjo-Daro rests, the distance between it and the Caucasus Mountains is 331 miles difference, because the difference is 2,531.3 miles. Do you follow? So before I get to Mecca, understand.
I'm I'm waiting for Mecca.
The Indus Valley,
I got you.
the Indus Valley, for the audience, the Indus Valley composed of two cities. Mr. Paul Guthrie says that it is those cities that's identified as the root of civilization, and proof is that the distance between those cities and the Caucasus Mountains, where we sent the Caucasian,
it's 2,200 miles. 1,100 miles, you will find an oasis, which he says is still there today.
Right. And we're
gonna have to take a break in a minute.
Right.
Oh man, this is one of those shows.
Right.
But let's try to finish this thought right here.
Yeah, let's finish this thought. And then we have demonstrated that the two cities are not 220 miles. They are 300 miles in excess of the 2,200 miles that we're looking for. So now let's go to map 3. The map that you and I all want. Google Map. The distance from Mecca, Arabia to the Caucasus Mountains. It is 3,496 kilometers, which translates into 2,172 miles, which is rounded up to 2,200 miles. The only 2,200 miles we have is from the city of Mecca, where it sits today, to the Caucasus Mountains. Mecca, 2,200 miles. A difference of only, let me get the math right, a distance of only 28 miles. But where Mr. Guthrie wants us to place the root of civilization, there is a difference of 300 miles. Case closed. It's a wrap for him. The math says it's a wrap for him.
Is there an oasis at 1,100 miles from Mecca to that oasis that's supposedly there?
But that throws the math off even more, because without the oasis, you are at a 300 excess of the 22 miles that you're looking for.
I'm saying from Mecca to the Caucasus Mountains is at 1,100 miles.
No,
is
sir.
There an oasis?
No, sir. No, sir. So this is not the construction of Dr. Wesley Muhammad, nor is this the construction of Mr. Paul Guthrie. This is Google Maps, the distance from Mecca, Arabia to the Caucasus Mountains. That distance is in mileage, 2,172.189 miles, which is rounded to 2,200 miles. Only a difference of 27.8 miles. But the difference in the area that Mr. Paul Guthrie wants us to place the origin of that trek, there's a difference of 300 miles. So it is not India that is the place where whites started their journey to the Caucasus Mountains. Google Maps mathematics makes it clear that it was Mecca, Arabia, where that 2,200 mile trek began.
The Queen Digga want to ask you a question real quick before we go to break.
Yeah.
Yes. My question is, where geographically, I know Europe is the Caucasus Mountains, but what, like, at exactly what point are you measuring, within Europe? Like, what geographical location is that measurement being equated with?
We call Europe West Asia.
Yeah. The Caucasus Mountains is north of the Azerbaijan region, Armenia, and going into Russia. So at the foot of the Caucasus Mountains range is presumably where Google Maps placed the destination, and at the holy city of Mecca, as it appears on maps today, is where Google Maps began the journey, began the calculations. And their calculations has us at 2,200 miles the calculation that Mr.
And
Paul
is
Guthrie.
that a straight shot? Because he told us that there is a way to come up with that 2,200 miles from Mecca, but some of it entails U-turns.
No.
It's quite a roundabout way, a way that you couldn't walk.
And you don't see any of this on this Google Maps. You don't see any of those U-turns or it's a straight shot.
From what I could see.
It's a straight shot.
Okay, so listen, that's very compelling right there. We have to take a break. When we come back, maybe we can talk more mathematics. Maybe we talk about the 9,000 miles.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, and there are things that I would like to offer as a focus of discussion. These numbers are good, but there's a lot of there's even more substantive matters in his claims that we must disabuse.
It's really hard to encompass it in such a short time.
Understood.
But we're going to do our best. Yanadameen Godcast. We'll be back. Oh, yeah, I love it. I love how you brought little visuals and stuff like that. That's compelling.
Yes, sir. Praise belongs to Allah. We're serious. We are serious about a live critical engagement over his claims. I think you see why he's finding every angle to weasel out of this discussion with us.
You ready? All right, peace. Welcome back to Yanadameen Godcast. I'm Lord Jamar. I'm Digga. Got my man, Fact Checker Rage in the house. Sound man Alex. Director, editor, Harold in the place to be. And we have our distinguished guests right about this time. Dr. Wesley Muhammad, everybody. Clap it up for Dr. Wesley Muhammad of the Nation of Islam. Peace to you, God.
Peace,
or to
God.
Islam, also, I should say. As he's also
Peace,
known
Allah.
amongst the gods in the earth. Peace, God.
Peace, Lord.
So yeah, we were here building, and in the interest of time, we just gonna jump right into it. We here talking about, Paul Guthrie and the Get on the Wheel series, and we're talking about W.D. Farrakhan, and talking about the devil, and where, getting ran from the root of civilization, the caves of West Asia. Okay, so now we want to talk about real quick maybe that 9,000 miles. Why didn't their own people come get them? Well, why didn't they go back to their own? Because they couldn't swim 9,000 miles. You understand? What about the 9,000 miles? What about where their own people didn't know they were over here until approximately 60 years ago? He said that correlates with a book called Slavery, which arrived in India at a certain time.
I saw that.
Yeah, these are just mathematical things that I just would like to touch on. But we could touch on that 9,000 real quick, and I definitely want to touch on the points that you want to get into.
Yeah. So let's touch on that 9,000 real quick. The problem is that, so I saw his video where with the globe he identified 9,000 miles from the North America and India. I don't have a problem with that calculation. I'm going to say more about that. The problem is he misrepresents the 9,000 miles. The 9,000 miles is not identified in here, with the root of civilization. The 9,000 miles are in the 1 through 36. They cannot swim the 9,000 miles. So the identification of the 9,000 miles with a root of civilization is not made in the lesson where the 9,000 miles appear. That's a critical point, because I said in my opening, he misrepresents the supreme wisdom of the Nation of Islam. And we who parrot him uncritically, we don't even refer to the sources, so we are guilty of misrepresenting as well. So that 9,000 miles is not identified in the supreme wisdom with the distance associated with the root of civilization. It is not. Now, I don't have a problem with any measurement connecting us to India. Let me say this. I said there are some redeeming qualities of his presentation. I said to him in private, and I am saying publicly, that there was not the statement, W.D. Farad came from India. There was nothing offensive about that statement to me at all. He says, and he uses the language very carefully. I'm going to talk about that. He says, W.D. Farad spoke Indian English. The reason he did so is that he came from India. Now, there is absolutely nothing offensive in that statement to me. It is very possible that when Master Farrakhan Muhammad, came to America, that he did come from India. Now, in our discussion, my discussion with Mr. Paul Guthrie, and it was a private discussion, and I posted it publicly. He came on the post and did not deny it. I pointed out Mr. Paul Guthrie admitted. Notice, Lord Jamar, you never hear Mr. Paul Guthrie say W.D. Farad was born in India. He never says that because he doesn't make that claim. But he knows the language he uses. He came from India, and I challenged him. You know the people, when they hear you say he came from India, they think you're saying he was born in India, but you are not saying he was born in India. Why do you not disabuse the people of that incorrect implication? To this day, he has never disabused the people, but let's be real clear. Mr. Paul Guthrie has never said that Master Farrakhan Muhammad was born in India, because he knows he cannot in any way, shape, or form make a case that Master Farrakhan Muhammad was born in India. He says that W.D. Farad came from India, and I have no reason to object to that at all. In fact, we know that he was in India. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the Savior traveled to every inhabited place on the planet, and he specifically identified India and Pakistan as areas where he traveled. It is very conceivable to me that between the years 1910, when W.D. Farad first entered the United States of America, to the time 1930, where he publicly revealed himself, during those 20 years he was in and out of the country, it is very conceivable that a good portion of that time was spent in India. It is very conceivable to me that Master Farrakhan Muhammad's time spent in India was spent honing his craft. And so when you see Indian influences in his way, that is very mathematical to me. It's very understandable. So there is nothing objectionable about the claim as it is. He came from India to America. That is very possible. But he never said, because he knows he cannot demonstrate in any way, shape, or form that Master Farrakhan Muhammad was born in India. He offers no proof of that, because he doesn't even say that, because he said to me that that's not the claim that he's making.
Well, let me just say this. No one can really make an assertion where he was from.
Except the person who was born.
Except the person that was born.
That
and sometimes they can't make an assertion. How many of us really remember when we were born? You see what I'm saying? So we've taken the word of somebody.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is,
But be real clear, Brother Lord Jamar, if I asked you right now where you were born, whatever answer you gave me, I would have no warrant to doubt your self-identification.
true. This is true. Okay, so now, what was I just gonna say? Go ahead, say your question, and I'll think of what I was trying to say.
So Dr. Muhammad, as a professor of religious studies, now I know absolute zero about Buddhism. Do you see any similarity within Islam and Buddhism? Are they comparable in any way to where maybe there's a word twist here or there could be?
Great question.
And also, real quick, and now I remember what I want to say. Also, you said you don't take offense to him saying that he could have come through India. What exactly do you take offense to?
Those are
that
the
he's proposing.
those
You know what I'm
two
saying? Like,
questions.
what is being said? That's
Absolutely.
disrespectful.
Well, I don't use that term. I don't feel any disrespect. He's not disrespectful. He's just wrong. They're two different things. It's academic. The disrespect, to offer an idea controversial isn't disrespect to me. I'm a heretic. I stay among the heretics. So the issue is not that he advanced something disrespectful. It's just that his advancements are wrong. So you both asked the important question, Sister Digga. Digga, that's where I wanted to go. That's exactly where I wanted to go. Buddhism. Now, I'm holding my books up not as a plug, but to make a point. Every single subject we're discussing, I have produced a body of scholarship on the subject to be vetted. I am saying that Mr. Paul Guthrie, I said it and I'm going to say it again. I'm not throwing shade. I'm making an academic point that I'm going to demonstrate. That Mr. Paul Guthrie is not qualified as a student of Buddhism to make the claims that he's making. He is not qualified as a student of Islam to make the claims that he is making. And this is why he is so awfully wrong in both claims. So I would like to demonstrate that to the point of your question, Sister Digga. He says that he asked the question, did Master Farrakhan Muhammad teach Islam or did he teach Buddhism? He answers, what Master Farrakhan Muhammad actually taught is Buddhism. He says his principles are 100% Buddhist. He says that the teachings of Master Farrakhan Muhammad only line up with Buddhism. Now, this is where he is wrong. But to answer your question, this book right here, Religion of the Black God, Indic Sacred Science in Islam, I demonstrate, dear sister, that in this book, the Book of God, an encyclopedia of proof that the black man is God, what I demonstrate is that in ancient India, in ancient Mesopotamia, in ancient Egypt, in ancient Arabia, and in ancient Black Africa, all of them are branches, spiritual branches and physical branches of a central culture, civilization, and religion. And as a result of that, all of them have commonalities in them. And that includes this whole book documents that Islam, as taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the sacred science of the black God. That's what this Islam is. The sacred science of the black God. Ancient India is a home of the sacred science of the black God. I demonstrate, I'm going to say this, Buddhism is an articulation of the sacred science of the black God. So absolutely, I demonstrate that you find It's what we call the common theology of the ancient Near East. The ancient Near East, the ancient area had a common theology because they are all branches of a central civilization which was in Arabia. The Indus Valley civilization is a child of Arabia, not the other way around.
Well, I was going to say, don't most cultures and religions have some sort of cross-pollination going on? Like, what's so terrible about, like, if we identify some of that? Like, let's just say
there was nothing terrible.
Let's just say Farrakhan did mix a little Buddhism with Islam. Like, would that be a bad thing?
Yeah.
Like, for me, great things have come out of this. So for me, it doesn't really matter.
No.
For me, personally.
For me either.
If he came from India,
For me
if
either.
he came from Mecca.
That is correct.
If he had nuanced teachings that may have, had a little bit of Jainism when we talk about the 24 scientists and things of that nature. There could be a lot of different influences that we have to come up with something new. I was always taught that the Islam that we were learning here was specifically tailored for the black man of North America. And this is why it didn't resemble Orthodox Islam. So, I mean, I'm just wondering about that. Like, is that...
Yeah, but that wasn't...
so
who told you that wasn't correct in telling you that? And that's what my work... Who told you that this Islam was specifically tailored for the black man and woman in America, as if to say that it has no global context? That was a wrong teaching given to you. But I would like to, and so I would like to answer that.
It didn't have a global context, but I think the way I was taught, and maybe I was taught wrong, we're not taught by perfect people, but the way I was taught was that this knowledge, and this actually with people in the Nation of Islam that would tell me this.
Oh, and it could still be wrong.
That this knowledge was basically tailored for the specific condition that the black man in America specifically went through. Yeah. And so this is why it was given to us.
If I could address that and clarify that.
Absolutely.
It is the case that the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad were presented to the so-called Negro in America in a way that is a specific prescription for us. The way that it was presented, the life that is a part of the teaching was specifically, you say tailored, I say prescribed for the peculiar condition of the black man and woman of America. That's different from what I'm saying. The teaching of the black God, for example, that Master Farrakhan Muhammad taught his student, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He did not innovate that truth of God. He did not create from whole cloth a teaching to give to the black man and woman in America to have some effect. The specific black God theology that Master Farrakhan Muhammad taught to us here in America, it has a global context, and that's what I, as an historian of religion, have been documenting. And that's why I said to your wonderful question, Sister Digga, Buddhism is a religion of the black God theology. It has been Aryanized. It has been corrupted the same way Islam is a religion. Islam, born in Arabia, is a religion of the black God. It has been Aryanized. Hinduism started as a religion of the black God, but it has been Aryanized and corrupted. So the truth of the black God, we've documented it all over the world. So to your point, Lord Jamar, I am not offended that someone finds parallels, that's what I do, is document the parallels. The error of Mr. Paul Guthrie is this. Let me read what he says, if I may. The illogic in the game that he plays. I want to point out for us the game that he is playing. He says W.D. Farrakhan taught Buddhism, not Islam. Well, what do you mean, Mr. Guthrie, by Buddhism? You say he's a Buddhist, he's not a Muslim, he teaches Buddhism, not Islam. What then is the Buddhism that you say he teaches? Look at what he says. Buddhism is not the worship or the submission to any deity or deities. Buddhism is not chanting. Buddhism is not bowing down to statues. Burning incense or offering bowls of fruit is not Buddhism. Buddhism is not the worship of the Buddha. It has no dogmas. It has no beliefs. Buddhism, the name Buddha simply means the wide-awake man or woman. Any wide-awake man or woman is a Buddha or a Buddhist. Now, he just went through eliminating any individual characteristic of a religion called Buddhism. It consists of nothing other than being a wide-awake man or woman. So you, Brother Lord Jamar, simply by virtue of being wide awake, by his definition of Buddhism, you are a Buddha.
I'm a Buddha.
I am a Buddha. You are a Buddha. So he's playing a game. You purge the religion of every single element of the religion and give this generic meaning of it. Buddhism is just a wide awake man, and then say this is proof that Master Farrakhan Muhammad was a Buddha. Well, yeah, he was awake, so I'm a Buddha. My grandmama was a Buddha when she became wide awake, so that's a game. I go further than him, Sister Digga, because my work documents that Buddhism and Hinduism, both of them are articulations of the sacred science of the black God, which means I promise you that I can demonstrate closer, more substantive, and more relevant parallels between Buddhism and the black God theology of Master Farrakhan Muhammad more than Mr. Paul Guthrie does, because he does not have anything but a shallow knowledge of Buddhism. I'm prepared to demonstrate that.
You know what would be a great way to do that? You know what would be a great way to do that, True Islam?
What's that?
In a debate.
Sounds good to me.
Can I get you to listen, brother, I know what you said, but I want to make this happen, bro. If I could get you right now to say, because we got to get ready to go, bro. Mm-hmm. Like this subject is so deep and enthralling. And first of all, you're a master speaker, so you know how to speak.
It's almost insulting.
Yeah, the time that, like, an hour is not enough for this subject. We gave him an hour, we gave you an hour, but this is not enough time. Y'all really need to.
And you say this exchange has been going on since 2004?
This is what,
14.
It's been going on for a while.
It's been going on for a while.
2014. Listen,
Yeah.
I would like, the brother ain't going to accept nothing less than a debate. Could you please just say you're going to debate him? So we can get this going, because I really, you both have some strong points, and I just want to see it go down. But not in no WWF, because there's a lot of conscious, wrestling championships going on right now. That's not what I'm looking for. And all of y'all that's into that, y'all get out of here, because we're actually trying to do something productive here. We're not striving to, this one first fat one on some, this is not the WWF. But I would like to see this, both of y'all go, you know what I mean, head to head intellectually on this subject, because time's just about up. What do you say, brother? Can we do that?
Can we join
Can we
you
have a
on
debate?
your...
Can we have a debate? Yes, with You and Paul Guthrie.
Let me say this to you, to Mr. Paul Guthrie. Y'all got me twisted. Dear brother, you didn't have me twisted until just now by asking me what you just asked me. Because you know that I stated my position, and I am the one who's saying I want to make this happen. Now, your audience needs to be aware of why Mr. Guthrie is making this a sticking point. And you, Lord Jamar, you should not be assisting him in this way.
I'm not trying to assist him. I'm trying to assist I'm trying to facilitate whatever discussion, debate, build, whatever
so
y'all
you
want to
and
call
I,
it.
yeah, and that's the point. So just let us be real clear, or let the audience be real clear, so they understand who's playing games here and who ain't.
You stated in the beginning your position of why you said you can't call it.
But the why. But they didn't hear that. They didn't hear the why.
I believe they did, but if not, reiterate.
No, I didn't state it. I didn't state it.
I stated it, and you agreed. I said because you are a part of an organization, you are part of the Nation of Islam, that you can't autonomously just do certain.
See, the mistake that was made was conveyed to Mr. Guthrie, and he seized on it as an excuse to duck out of the debate. I am not, so the audience will know, I am a helper of the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. You see this edifice I'm in? This ain't my personal home.
True indeed.
Because I don't do me personally. I follow my chain of command, and my chain of command goes up to the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. And when you and I spoke, Brother Lord Jamar, I told you that I want to make this happen. We have to publicize it in a way that will allow it to happen. So the whole point of the language is to craft it in a way so that it can happen. You, in your conversation with Mr. Paul Guthrie, you tipped your hand, he heard that, and now he is seizing that as an escape, a trap door out of this thing. And so I'm going to say it again. I don't care what Mr. Paul Guthrie calls it. He can call it a debate, and he can hear it ringing in his ears from his own mouth 1,000,000 times a day. None of you are going to compel me to violate my protocol. I seem to be the only one who's really determined to have this happen. If you want it to happen, Mr. Paul Guthrie, just show up. Forget what it's called. We don't have to call it nothing. Just show up. If you want to have this discussion, just show up next week.
I'm in agreement.
Just show up.
Listen,
and
I didn't ask you that to try to disrespect you in any way. I'm just trying to make this go down. You understand, brother?
And there's only one thing that has to happen for it to go down. I show up and he show up. That's the only thing that has to happen. If you want it to go down, Mr. Guthrie, just show up. 3 o'clock, I'll be there. Will you, Mr. Guthrie, be there?
It was a flagpole we met at. Meet me at the flagpole after school.
I'll be there.
I'm way too powerful to be debating with folks. Just show up, and we can do this. I'll feel you, brother.
Well, listen.
He's playing games.
How can people get your literature, get your books, get more information on these subjects as far as the protocol of the Black God, and tell us where you might be speaking at, or
Yes, sir. I would like
how
to.
can people get in contact with you?
I would also like to say I actually prepared some slides. I would like to, when we have to conclude here to the live stream audience, I'm going to present a case so that it will be out there, and I will send it to you, allow Mr. Paul Guthrie to sink his teeth in, and hopefully it will inspire him, it will compel him to show up at 3 o'clock next week. So after we close here, we're going to continue, and we're going to show the people some things, the things that we came to show that we didn't get to yet. I can be reached social media wise at Wesley Muhammad Facebook and Dr. Wesley Muhammad Facebook, Wesley Muhammad Instagram, Wesley Muhammad YouTube, also at www.drwesleymuhammad.info. That's drwesleymuhammad.info. Every Thursday, more or less, at 4 o'clock. You can meet me at Sip and Savor in Bronzeville, Georgia, doing the math. We do the math, Lord Jamar, every Thursday at Sip and Savor. Tune in, that's nfastudios.com, so I can be reached thereby.
Well, yo, brother, True Islam, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, we thank you so much for having you with us. I wish we had more time. This is such an intriguing subject, and
yes,
you know, man, you are a great guest, and you are always welcome here on the Godcast.
Man, I appreciate that. I appreciate you, Lord Jamar. As a legend in the game, Brand Nubians, of course, Brand Nubians was part of the Islamic food that fed my Islam.
True indeed. Each one teach one. Man sharpens man, steel sharpens steel.
That's right.
But yeah, so brother, thank you to your live stream audience.
Thank you
for joining us. Thank you everybody that's here on Shindig, everybody at home at Yanadameen Godcast. Once again, another great one. I'm Lord Jamar.
I'm Digga.
Peace.
Peace. I want to reiterate, because the order of the slides were a little off, and I don't want there to be I don't want anybody to miss the point. So, Brother Troy, if you will please put up slide the map of Punjab, Pakistan, and the Caucasus Mountains. If you can put that up for our viewing audience. Again, the reason this is important is because Mr. Guthrie hinges his argument on that 2,200 miles between the root of civilization and the Caucasus Mountains, that 2,200 miles identifies the Indus Valley as a starting point. In the Indus Valley, the distance between the Indus Valley cities of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa are not 2,200 miles. That's the point. The distance from Harappa or Punjab to the Caucasus Mountains is 2,511 miles, which is 311 miles in excess of the 22 miles that we're looking for. So Harappa is discounted as the root of civilization. Mohenjo-Daro, or Sind Baghdad. The second slide, please. The map that says Sind Punjab. Sind Punjab is where Harappa, or Mohenjo-Daro, was located. The distance between that and the Caucasus Mountains is not 2,200 miles. It is 2,531 miles. There is an excess mileage of 331 miles. It is only between, next slide please, the Mecca slide. It is between the holy city of Mecca in Arabia and the Caucasus Mountains. The distance is 2,172 miles, round up to 2,200. The only difference between that and the number we're looking for is 27 miles. So clearly the 2,200 miles identify not the Indus Valley as a root of civilization from which Caucasians were driven out. It identifies the holy city of Mecca in Arabia as the root of civilization from which Caucasians were driven out. Now, please go to the beard slide with Master Farrakhan Muhammad and the bearded Muslim. Thank you. I said in my opening statement that brother or Mr. Paul Guthrie has a shallow knowledge of Islam. In fact, he has an Islam for Dummies knowledge of Islam. And he makes pronouncements, he makes pronouncements about Islam as if he has more than a Islam for Dummies understanding of Islam. And because he doesn't, because his knowledge of Islam is so shallow, the pronouncements he makes for Islam are so off base, and I want to demonstrate that both his knowledge of Islam is shallow, his knowledge of Buddhism is shallow, and the claims he makes from that perspective on Master Farrakhan Muhammad is wrong. So one of the arguments that Mr. Guthrie makes as evidence that W.D. Farrakhan was not a Muslim, he was a Buddhist. One piece of evidence he gives, he says, quote, notice that W.D. Farrakhan is clean shaven with no facial hair. The general look of this portrait is a clean shaven face. He shows nothing, W.D. Farrakhan. He shows nothing indicative or suggestive of the Islamic Sunnah or practice, whereas it is typical for men to wear some kind of facial hair, either a beard or, in some cases, only a mustache. But his clean-shaven face does not suggest any specific characteristics, meaning the Savior's. His clean-shaven face does not suggest any specific characteristics generally associated with a man who is a Muslim, end quote. So because Sunni Muslims wear a beard, and they say they wear a beard because it's the Sunnah, it's the way of the Prophet. Because W.D. Farrakhan was clean-shaven, this means he is not a Muslim. He goes further. He says, his Master Farrakhan Muhammad's, his hairstyle is not suggestive of the Sunnah. So he's fixated, he's focusing on the Savior's clean-shaven face and his hair as disqualifiers of him as a Muslim. He says nothing is in keeping with the Sunnah of the Prophet, he says nothing in this portrait suggests that W.D. Farrakhan is a Muslim. Wow. So this is such an illustrious example of how errant Mr. Paul Guthrie's, or how foundationless his whole edifice is. Why do I say that? First, slide please, take us to the statue behind the Savior, please. So, look at this, point number one. Now, of course, Mr. Guthrie's, the logic of Mr. Guthrie's argument, Master Farrakhan Muhammad is not a Muslim, he's a Buddhist. He's not from Arabia, he's from India. What is the evidence that he's a Buddhist and not a Muslim? He's clean shaven and his hair, suggesting that while Muslims are bearded, which he isn't, and therefore is not a Muslim, that Buddhists are clean shaven. And so his clean shavingness is an indication that he's a Buddhist or an Indian and not a Muslim. What we have here besides the bearded Muslim. Now, Mr. Guthrie said that sometimes those Muslims might, in order to have facial hair, they might have a mustache, but there's a reason this Muslim that you see, and most bearded Muslims that you see, they have a beard and no mustache. That's the unique facial dress of the Sunni Muslim, to have a beard and no mustache. So he said that the mark of the Sunnah is either a beard or sometimes a mustache. No, the Prophet said that he instructed his followers to trim closely your mustache and let your beard flow. So this is why the signature of the Sunni male is a full beard and a absent mustache. Exactly how it was worn in ancient black India. This here is the priest king, one of the most famous statues of ancient Sumer, Mesopotamia. This is a statue of the priest king. He is an ancient Indian black man who was either a priest or a king. A distinguishing characteristic of his features, according to Dr. Maladi J. Shindig, is that he has a long beard and shaved upper lip. And she says that this is characteristic of the men of the ancient Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro civilization, because many statues, male statues from that era, show men just like this with a full beard, with the mustache cut or shaved. So this ancient Indic black man wore facial hair in a way that today distinguishes Muslim men. So this nexus between ancient Indic men and Muslim men is vitally important, because Mr. Guthrie wants to draw a wedge between Islamic tradition and Indic tradition. This very distinguishing characteristic that he lifts up as a point of importance to him, the Muslim beard. It's this Muslim beard with the absence of a mustache, which connects ancient black Islam with ancient Indic or Indian tradition, because ancient India and ancient Arabia are cousin cultures, cousin nations. And this is why there's a parallel in the traditions of ancient India and Islam, because they are cousin cultures. And this is an illustration of the nexus between the two. This distinct way of wearing facial hair, full beard, no shaven mustache. that distinguishes the Sunni Muslims as it distinguished the ancient black men of the Indus Valley civilization. Go back to Master Farrakhan Muhammad, please. But you say, but that still does not account for Master Farrakhan Muhammad. The point being, you can't place him, his clean-shavenness, or one point, but the minor point, you can't place his clean-shavenness either in Indic tradition or in Muslim tradition. But you can place it in Muslim tradition, squarely in Muslim tradition, but not among the descriptions of the Sunni Muslims. You find Master Farrakhan Muhammad's visage among the Islamic discussions of the appearance of God himself. And so, we have documented. I want to hold this up. This is my dissertation. The doctoral dissertation I had to write in order to get my PhD in Islamic studies. I hold this up because this very dissertation details precisely what we are discussing. And if Mr. Paul Guthrie would have availed himself to my dissertation, he would have never have made the claim that the teachings of Master Farrakhan Muhammad regarding God are incompatible with Islam, because I document that in early Islamic tradition, before it got corrupted by white folks, that the earliest Sunni tradition, God was acknowledged to be a man. And specifically, the beauty of this portrait of the Savior, which Mr. Guthrie says, is not in keeping with the Sunnah. It absolutely is in keeping with the Sunnah of Allah himself, because it was Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who had a vision of his Lord. He saw God, he saw Allah in a vision, a future appearance of his Lord Allah. And look how he described Prophet Muhammad in his Sunnah. Look how he described the God. First, he explains that the beard, the reason the Muslim male wears a beard is because the beard is the sign of the sin of Adam. Adam was initially born without a beard. He was created without a beard, but as he was clean shaven. But as a result of the sin of Adam, his sons had to mark their sin with the beard. But in paradise, the Sunnah says, in paradise, the righteous men will be clean shaven. They will not have a beard, because the men of paradise will look like Allah himself. And how does Allah look? Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, what does your Sunnah say about how Allah, when he appears at the end of time, how does your Sunnah say he will look? What Arabic terms do you use to describe the appearance of Allah when he appears in the last days? Let's see how Allah looks according to Prophet Muhammad. He said, I saw my Lord in his most beautiful form, in the form of a young man, shab, with hair muwafa. This is a description of the hair on Allah, muwafa. I will get to what that means. So the prophet described God as a shab. Shab is an Arabic word that means young man. and covers the time frame of between between 15 to 33 years old. So shab, as meaning young man, covers the time period or age between 15 and 33 years old. In particular, some Muslim scholars said that this description in the Sunnah of Allah as a shab, as a young man, specifically means that he was 32 years old. Why is that important? Because this man, the Savior, with his clean-shaven face and his distinct hair, he first came to America. He first appeared in America in 1910 when he was 32 years old. The Prophet described the hair of this shab, this young man of maybe around 32 years old. God in the form of a young man, maybe around 35 years old, said his hair was muwafa. Muwafa, we are told, means it's hair that reaches down to his earlobe. Just like in the Savior, his hair reaches down to his earlobe. That's specifically how God's hair is described in the Sunnah. That's not the way the Muslim men of Sunni Islam wear their hair today, but they are not the standard. Once Allah appears on the scene, he is the standard. And the Sunnah says Allah's hair will be muwafa, just like that. It will go to the earlobes, and they say, the Sunnah says it's exceedingly black. But here's the kicker. So the Sunnah describes Allah coming as a young man, shab, maybe around 32 years old at the time of his appearance. He has a distinct hair, muwafa. It's exceedingly black, and it comes to his earlobe. What else do we know about God? It says, listen, I saw my Lord under the form of a shab, beardless. The Arabic term uses amrad. Amrad means clean shaven, beardless. So Allah himself, the Sunnah, Mr. Paul Guthrie, gives a description of the Muslim male, but it also gives a description of Allah himself. And while the Muslim male is bearded with no mustache, and whatever hair you are suggesting is characteristic of the Sunni male, the Sunnah describes Allah in a very specific way when he comes. He will come and he will be around the age of 32. He'll be a shab, a young man. He will have exceedingly black hair that goes to his earlobe, like so. And significantly, in contrast to the Sunni male, Allah will be amrad. He will be clean-shaven, bearded. So this portrait, Mr. Guthrie, does not suggest that W.D. Farrakhan is not a Muslim. It indicates that the Sunnah of the Prophet was right and exact in its description of the coming of Allah himself. But you don't know that, because you are not adequately familiar with the tradition of Islam. I'm about to wrap it up, Brother Warren. You are not sufficiently familiar with the tradition of Islam, and so the pronouncements that you make about it are empty. And we have your pronouncements, and we are anxious to go point by point, one by one, and demonstrate that you know not of what you speak when you speak on Islam. You have no basis to disqualify the teachings of Master Farrakhan Muhammad from being Islamic. You are not sufficiently versed in the tradition of Islam to make such pronouncements, nor it appears you are not sufficiently conversant with the very tradition that you claim, Buddhism. Because we can and we shall demonstrate that while Buddhism absolutely is part of the tradition of the sacred science of the black God, and it has very substantive and critical commonalities, not just with the teachings of Master Farrakhan Muhammad, but with the teachings of ancient Islam in Arabia. So this wedge, this artificial wedge that you are erecting between a Buddhism and Islam in order to put Master Farrakhan Muhammad in the box that you want him to be in will not work. Inshallah, we will be able to go further in detail on these matters. Dear family, I did not give all that I came to give. It's getting late, but hopefully Mr. Paul Guthrie and myself can go even further and deeper on the subject. And so to close, there is absolutely no warrant to claim that Master Farrakhan Muhammad is a Indian Buddhist masquerading as an Arabian Muslim. There is no warrant whatsoever. I can see the possibility of Master Farrakhan Muhammad having came to America from India. But as you and I both know, Mr. Paul Guthrie, the reason you never say publicly that Master Farrakhan Muhammad was born in India, because that is not the claim that you make, because you know you cannot make that claim. There is no evidence of that, but you allow the people to interpret your words erroneously like that, and that is wrong. We would like to know why you are being what appears to be disingenuous. But Master Farrakhan Muhammad came from India. That's perfectly appropriate. Master Farrakhan Muhammad was born in India. You have offered nothing in that matter, nor have you publicly claimed it. So please disabuse the people of that errant thought. Thank you, dear family. As-Salaam Alaikum.